everybody, and welcome to the latest in our Ship Management International podcast. And we're delighted today to be talking to a major player in global ship management, somebody who's very, very well known to many of you, Carsten Ostenfeldt, who is currently COO of Anglo-Eastern. Carsten is, as I said, very well known within global ship management sectors, but also he's played a crucial role and a key role in the Copenhagen Business School Blue MBA program, and has worked alongside Irene Rosberg. Now, we've already done a podcast with Irene, which you can find on the SMI shipmanagementinternational.com website. But we're delighted today to be speaking to Carsten. You know, what makes CBS so special, because it is really, really special. I mean, Irene's the loveliest person ever, and she just is amazing. But I mean, I think also with the quality, I mean, you're attracting very, very good graduates as well. And the size of your alumni is amazing. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about the Blue Board leadership program, and then maybe a little bit about just looking at companies and are they attracting the right people into their companies.
Absolutely, Sean. So we take it as it comes on the fly. And maybe just to give a little bit of context to my involvement. So actually from day one, when the Blue MBA was started, this must be, I guess, would have been back somewhere in the early 2000s. I think that was, so let's say 22 years ago. That was before Irene. That was a gentleman. His name was Carsten Melchers. I don't know if you ever met him.
I remember him.
And he was actually, I think, the facilitator for the program back in these days. And I was a young man at the time, I think somewhere in the mid-30s, and I was kind of attracted to this training or education program. So I was searching around class 1, class 2, class 3. And then came the time and, 2 kids and now number 3 on the way. I said, I have to do it before I turn 40. And that was when I signed up. So that became my target.
Well, we'll touch on that. That's good. I like that angle, actually.
Exactly. So I said, okay, it's now or never. So either do it now before I turn 40 or just forget about the Blue MBA. So that was my entry to it. Now, Irene had emerged at that time. So now she was leading the program. And then I joined. And what did I get, I think? So first of all, as I also said in my speech at the graduation, so first I thought this academic was a little bit oversold. Because I think somehow everyone who can sit on a chair, I think, could get to any level. I think it's just a matter of studying enough, then you get there. It's not because you are kind of super bright. But that said, then I also realized, of course, that there are really some deep divers in this program, and of course that's a university thing, but you really find someone who knows a lot about, very, very kind of isolated matters in shipping and in kind of world trade and what else was discussed there. So I think it is a good program, as you said. What I really liked also was that it's a very widespread class and alumni. I think it's really, you really get a good network by attending the Blue MBA. I think in my case, we was kind of 45, I guess, in the class. And, there was a lot of people from everywhere in the world, I think. So I would say at the time, half Scandinavians, half somewhere else from. You really got a good network of people all working with shipping somehow. So that was exciting. And that has continued, I think, as I can see that, every intake is a very multiple mix of people from all different kind of companies and activities across shipping and nationalities and so on. So you really get, a good melting pot of discussions and viewpoints and so on. So I think that's really kind of a benefit of the Blue MBA. And then you can say over time, they have expanded their reach. So now every year there's an alumni week, where you get professors to talk to ex students of the Blue MBA, can come to Copenhagen, can sit in and get inspired for whatever topic. And they're also going out, and they're trying to make more kind of tailor-made programs also for larger corporations and so on. So I think they have been very creative and gung-ho and expanding on getting influence in the world on the Blue MBA. By the way, they also expanded into cooperating with Singapore, I think, on shipping and trade. That's also from CBS. So I think it has generated, a good community of people around shipping, which then can, get educated as they go along through their career.
No, Carsten, I mean, as I said, been involved in this right from the start, really. But looking at Copenhagen Business School, what makes it so special? Because it is something unique, isn't it? And also, I think with Irene and with the team there, it is something that is attracting. What sort of makes it sort of special, do you think?
I think today it's a very developed community in the CBS around shipping. I think so. There's a lot of people who have been there for long. When I was giving the speech for the graduation, I was sitting next to a professor who was there also when I was there. And this is after all 18 years ago. And he has done nothing else since I was there than discussing, educating, get wiser on shipping logistic matters. So of course, I think he possesses a lot of information and a lot of kind of insight into various issues in across shipping. But I think also if you go a little bit back, Sean, I think the important part was the program had the backup of the society, so to say. So starting with the Maritime Fund headed by Mr. Carsten, but then I think supported by the state, which has given kind of good conditions for shipping to evolve in the Kingdom of Denmark. And there have always been a kind of a push and a support to get on, establish these programs, attract people, make it exciting, so to say, to be part of the shipping world. Years back, shipping was the third leg of the kind of the Danish society income generation. I think that came for leg number 3 priority was shipping, and not many countries has this.
So when you look at shipping itself as an industry, and it's very fragmented, and we talk about that a lot, and it's well documented. But is it now gearing and pushing more towards higher education? Does it want to get around qualifications? It's not just learning on the job like it used to be many years ago. That the younger generation or the generation coming through now want to do the MBAs, want to have the accreditation, want to be recognised, want to have that knowledge. Are you seeing a shift in that, do you think?
I think it is coming. I think not always to the speed you would expect, but reality is it's a lot of money on stake. Typically, I think, as I'm, of course, half jokingly saying, but nothing in shipping is counting less than $100,000 for everything. You don't get anywhere with $100,000. So it's always a lot of money on stake for any decision. I think the world has become more complex in many ways. I think it is, we can just take geopolitical stuff today, but also regulation, what can you do, what can you not do, governance. So there's a lot of other different matters on stake in play when you are part of the shipping community today. And that just requires better education. The way you finance, you cannot get finance for a ship in certain cases unless you are compliant to certain specialities, which is set by the financiers. Every development like this, I think, requires better educated people.
Looking ahead, and as you say, the industry's, and it is changing. It's in some sort of ways, it's a very exciting change. You've got the digitalization, innovation. You've got new ways of driving and efficiency. The industry is going to be more agile, and it's changing in the way that it operates. And it has to be more compliant, as you say, bigger role of the regulators and what have you. You've got to be attracting in the right people into the industry. So not just seafarers. We talk about the role of the seafarers. That's very, very important. But we've got to be attracting the right people into the offices and into the boardrooms. Is shipping doing enough, do you think, in attracting the right people? I mean, it's competing with a lot of other industries out there, and shipping is notoriously quiet and sort of silent about what it does so well. I mean, is it attracting the right people in?
I think, Sean, again, talking about building a community like what CBS has been part of for many years. If you take a place like Denmark, I think it is a super attractive education to get into shipping and get educated, not as a seafarer, but as a part of the onshore organization. So the program, which is also managed by CBS, called Shipping and Trade, which is a bachelor program. This is, I think, the second highest admission level for the whole CBS. The only one beating that one is international trade. Otherwise, shipping and logistics is the second highest one. So then you can become a lawyer and you can become a lot of other stuff, but more people want to become shipping and trade. So at least in a place like, I think, Denmark, Singapore, to some extent Greece, that's actually where you have been able to develop an environment around shipping which is attractive to younger people. They want to come in. They really want to build a career in shipping. So I think it is possible. But there's also a lot of countries which has not done anything like this to kind of attract youngsters and kind of make it exciting for people to join the industry.
And is that the program that you were talking earlier about, that they're expanding it into Singapore?
Yes, that's the one. So they have an exchange program going between them. Singapore is one, and Hong Kong, I think, is another. Where they have exchange of universities. So
now, for the benefit of our listeners into the podcast, I mean, you're alumni, I think, and in 2007, I think it was, wasn't it, Carsten? When you 2007.
Can you imagine, John?
Very similar to the 1992 Man United team. It's that sort of key 2007. That was the year. And you've been heavily involved in the MBA program itself. But for the benefit of our listeners, just talk us through what it involves in going on to an MBA program. I mean, how much time and commitment. And as you said earlier, not everybody's a professor out there or potential for doing a professor. Can everybody sort of do it as long as they just put the work in?
I would say yes. I think everyone can do it. I think, of course, you have to have the dedication of sitting down and study. I think so. That's the thing. I think they estimate approximately 20 hours a week. The way we did it, and we is my family, was of course that I had to sign in with my wife before I started out and saying, okay, so you will do the kind of the social elements of the family's life while I'm studying, and we agreed on this. While I was in the last 6 months of my program, I was actually moving to Germany also, so I was leaving home and taking up a new assignment in the same company where I was, but still in a new place, which of course gave me a little bit of freedom to study more because I was there on my own for kind of 6 months before family joined. But to your question, I would say yes. But you need to make up your mind. I think you don't get it for free. So you have to sit in and you have to spend the hours it is to study and kind of do assignments and follow things. Then it is possible. I think it's very given. And I think what you get out of the program is that you get a kind of a full-blown insight into kind of the full shipping industry. I think so. You get all the way around of all the players, whether this is finance, insurance, design, operations. So kind of you meet everything and every discussions, and you meet most probably also in your class some people who is kind of dealing with it on a day-to-day. And I think it's good for a career that you have this kind of very holistic and broad view on how things works, because any happening in the world, if you are part of the shipping community, lands on your desk and you have to deal with it. I think whether it's a US dollar, euro exchange rate, whether it's a Red Sea issue, whether it's the growing steel prices, everything somehow affects your decision making and your dealing, no matter where you sit in the shipping industry. And there you get a good holistic view on this. And I would say, again, you get a very good network, I think. So good people you can stay in touch with, you can call if you have a problem. So, some of these guys I studied with 18 years ago, we're still in touch, and we still call each other if you have, a problem which you think somebody can help with. And so the network, I think, is very strong also after 2 years of trying and sweating together.
Yeah, so it's not. So I think that's the key thing as well, isn't it? You keep the close contact and the building up relationships over that 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have the long hours and you have the weeks you sit together and you do nothing else than being together in joint assignments. So that's also fun.
Now, a part of the benefit of you with your MBA is for Anglo-Eastern through your role as COO. Shipping is going through a very interesting time at the moment, as I said, with decarbonisation, new fuels, alternative fuels. You've carbon capture, a lot of sort of discussion about that. You've got digitalisation, innovation. You've got geopolitics. There's a lot happening on that side of it, and shipping has to be incredibly agile in being able to adapt and move and what have you. And then you've also got the people aspect. You've still got that continuous issue of attracting in and holding on to the competent seafaring staff. It's not just about getting numbers in, it's getting the right people in. What would you say are the biggest, and these are all opportunities as well, because there's opportunities there for driving a new business on the back of all of this. What's top of your sort of, as a major ship management company, what's top of your sort of list of priorities when it comes to this? Because you've got a lot to think about.
I think, Sean, the fast answer is basically everything you mentioned is somehow playing into our future. I think people is more probably the most dominant challenge, I would say, for many reasons. One is the ones you have. Be sure they stay relevant and updated and trained and, of course, motivated. What kind of programs do you have in the company to be sure that people actually are willingly and freely coming to work and doing a good job? Then you have the whole training aspect, be sure that you get your pipeline developed, that you actually start developing young talent, which is going to be your pipeline for tomorrow. And then I think, of course, deal with all the technology changes which we're going to have, whether this is digitalization, the way we work on ships today, communication, the way communication flows, the whole kind of story about alternative fuels, where we are, I would say, I think we are the forerunner actually in the industry, I think, with 100 plus new buildings in the pipeline, which is all dual fuel. So I think we are the ones with the biggest fleet coming out of all kind of fuels, LNG, ammonia, methanol, and so on. So all this, I think, is on the plate for the future and has to be dealt with, at the right timing. And I'm not super concerned about what we do in our company, because I think we're in control of this, and I think we are well on the way for addressing everything. But I'm actually more concerned about the industry, I think, because one day there will be someone who wakes up and realize we don't have the people, I think. So either they steal our people and pay them, or they realize that we actually have something at risk which somebody has to deal with.
Yeah, we don't want to go back to the 2008 or 9 when we had all the poaching going on. I mean, that was dreadful, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and I think there is a risk that it's going to happen again. I think in certain specialized segments that someone realized that the only way we can get people is to come from somewhere else and pay good money for them to make a jump.
How can that problem be resolved? I mean, are we going to be looking at new areas like Africa or whatever as recruitment areas, or is it about shipping coming together and actually selling itself as an industry that people might want to actually go to see and have a career with?
It's already a very good discussion, Sean, because we have had this discussion for 20 years about how do we attract the right people to see. I think reality is also that when you're attracting youngsters to see, that is typically from areas of the world where there are less opportunities. In the moment that certain region develops opportunities, then you also get less seafarers. Now, this is, of course, creating some problems today because suddenly there's an element of geopolitical issues playing into what can you do as a country. I think if you don't have any qualified seafarers at all because you was never really attentive to this development, and now you just realize I have no one who can actually operate a ship. That will start pulling another development, I think. So we will see a drive towards other countries which we have never seen before, even I would say developed countries, which is not a natural supply area for seafarers. I think you're going to see more people from there on coming out, most probably being supported and paid by states or funds or local companies against good terms and conditions. But I think the big supply nations will continue to be the ones we know for quite some time. And I'm sure there'll be a development in Africa also. But it will also be a long-term development if you will come up anywhere near Philippines, India, which already today, I think, in many ways has enough people to source from if you really wanted to expand the seafaring community from these countries. I'm always saying, Sean, and again, I think it's a little bit of a joke, but we have 22,000 seafarers from India. If anybody needs 10,000 more, we can get them. You're looking at a country with 1.4 billion people, all well-educated, young. I would say with the right infrastructure, you can source a lot of people there. As such, you don't need to go anywhere else to find what you need. But again, I think coming back to what is a desire from operators is also to have a mix of different nationalities for different reasons.
I want to, the last question really, and thank you so much for your time today, Carsten. This is always a pleasure talking to you. But I just thought it'd be quite nice to leave the last sort of question to the lovely Irene, really, Irene Rosberg, who is very much sort of at the centre of CBS and the Blue MBA. What is it that's so special about Irene? Because she's a powerhouse, isn't she? She's everywhere and whatever. But you've been around her an awful long time or what have you. But what makes her so special and good for what she's doing here at the Copenhagen Business School?
Sure, that's going to be a long list. But if I just try to kind of shorten it up, then I would say she's very energetic. So as you said, she's here and there and everywhere. I think she has been now part of the program for more than 20 years, and she's always there for the program. And I can just say when I was a student and she was kind of leading the program on the ground from the front line, she was a fantastic person to make the whole machine go well, I think. So, imagine you put in 45 different people in the room. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, different countries. People have funny ideas once in a while. They think that this should be like this. It's not like this. We have a discussion. But somehow she managed to make the whole machine go, nicely, orderly, no screaming and yelling. And everybody came out and saying, that's fantastic. And that's what she can do, I think. She's a super well-connected person with a lot of links into a lot of people in the world, and especially after 20 years in the program, with all her students, ex-students, which are now out there, I think she can manage any situation in the world, which is within shipping. There will be someone who can help her. So I regret the moment when she decides to lay up and retire, because then I think the Blue MBA will be a different program without her.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Carsten, thank you very much indeed for your time today. It's been a joy to talk to you, and we look forward to. I look forward to catching up with you in face to face, maybe at some of the events going on, maybe overseas or over in Singapore or Hong Kong or whatever. But we'll certainly look forward to that. But as always, lovely to listen to your views and your comments, and thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for giving me time. And definitely we will see each other around. So have a nice weekend.